I have ended up in court for criticizing government already, or MP.
Desmond,
So me for
don't.
libel. Yeah. We've been down that road, Desmond.
To comment during the Frankly Speaking show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside these, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the enter key on your keyboard or click the send button. A comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live.
Good day. Good day. Good day. This is the final podcast before the general elections on Wednesday, September 3. So, we decided, of course, what else but politics? We'd take a look at the latest polls. We decided we'd review how the debates went, and we'd engage those among us bold enough to predict what the seat count will be on Wednesday. Thank you all for joining us. Remember to subscribe to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel. We invite your comments and questions during the podcast. Please follow the instructions given at the top of the podcast just now. Just go to the comment section and let's have your questions and comments. And we'll take as many of them as we can during the broadcast. A special welcome to commentators. Lloyd B Smith, CEO of the Western Mirror newspaper, acclaimed commentator, former member of parliament, publisher, businessman, and commentator Patrick Maitland, who is many, many things, and former freelance journalist. Well, we're not going to have George Lawson today. I think at the last minute, we have had difficulty reaching him. With me today are our regular panelists, Winnie Anderson-Brown and Desmond Richards. Now, we want to get going right away. Here is the start of a Gleaner's report outlining their poll results today. That is today, Sunday. Gleaner, August 31, and that's by Kimoni Francis. The opposition People's National Party has opened a gap over the ruling Jamaica Labour Party, according to the findings of the latest RJR Gleaner Commission Don Anderson poll. So the Gleaner started their report today. And it says 37 point, with just 3 days left before Jamaica heads to the polls, Jamaicans head to the polls, 37.6% of the 1,010 respondents in the poll indicated that they will vote for the PNP, while 34.5% plan to mark their X for the JLP. This gives the PNP a 3.1 percentage point lead, which is just outside the margin of error. I said the margin of error was 3%. And the polls were conducted by Don Anderson's Market Research Services Limited from August 22 to 25. And they dealt with surveyed individuals 18 and older across all Jamaican parishes. So when you go around on the rest of the text, and we were reading it from the video, they indicated they did all the breakdown and so on. And they gave also the undecided numbers and so forth. So we'll come to those details as well. So let's start by asking Lloyd B, you tell us how you see these polls and whether they are significant. Lloyd B, are you hearing us?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Am I the one you have?
Yes, I'm asking you to give us a sense of how you see these polls and whether they are significant.
Well, first of all, definitely the polls are significant because they come at a penultimate moment in the election cycle, where we only have a few more days before the Jamaican populace goes to the poll. Um, what is significant is that the PMP has, in fact, re-emerged. Previously, it did appear as if it was losing momentum, a momentum that it had had since the results of the local government election, which gave the party a fillip on the basis that it not only garnered a large number of popular votes over the JLP, but also won a significant number of parish council seats. And that had given the party sufficient confidence to zero in on the general election campaign, which it set out to do and has maintained that momentum. I think what has happened is that for some time the JLP has, in my estimation, been winning the. As you know, in election campaign, you have the ear war, which would involve the radio, the TV, the social media.
Social media, yes.
Yeah, uh, they seem to have been having an edge there by virtue of the resources that it has. Interesting also, and this is something post-election we need to dig into a little bit more, the extent to which an incumbent government uses government resources as part of its electioneering campaign, because this has been very blatant and somehow it has not garnered that much discussion. At the same time, I think that where the PMP has been strong is on the ground.
All right. We're coming back to you, Lloyd B, on some of those specifics. I want to ask Patrick to give us his impression on whether these polls are significant and his first overall feeling. Patrick?
Definitely the polls are significant. But we still question the accuracy of the Don Anderson polls, because even the last election, I don't recall they said that the JLP would have had a landslide. It was more of a tie. They were expecting both parties to come out neck and neck, and yet the JLP had a landslide in the last elections. However, I'm not going to discredit Don Anderson poll totally, because it's no doubt an indication as to what is going on the ground. What I know too was that
Let him just finish his opener, Desmond, and then your time. Desmond, let him finish his opener, and then you just asking him to finish.
All right. The PNP was campaigning much harder than the JLP before, like the last couple of months. And so that would have been responsible for they didn't lose much grounds while the JLP was gaining some traction. And now it's obvious they are picking up some traction. I can feel that they are picking up some traction. But to determine exactly the status of both parties, that is what we're still questioning, right?
Okay, all right, fine. Desmond wanted to ask a question, and then we're going to go.
I wonder if Patrick questioned the blue dot poll. He questioned the blue.
I was about to make. Well, to be honest, I didn't even remember that one. That one too.
Let us just remind listeners, viewers, that the blue dot polls came out at the week on Friday, and they gave a high level of favorability for the JLP and for Prime Minister Andrew Holness. For the JLP and for Holness,
the
JLP enjoyed a 46% favorability in terms of people who intend to vote for them, and the PNP 33%. So the difference is massive. It's a 13-point difference. And they were saying the JLPs was actually growing. That increasing from where it was in May
You know,
35% and 31 for the PNP.
The blue dot poll remind me of a poll that the late Paul Robertson did in the 1980s to counter the Professor Carl Stone poll.
Yeah.
I remember that is how the blue dot poll is laughable. But one of the things that commentators must remember, the Jamaican voters have been given the two parties which have formed government since 1944, 2 terms until PJ Patterson. But one of the things that we keep on forgetting about that third term with PJ Patterson, a significant factor in that third term was the presence of Eddie Siaga as leader of the JLP. The JLP was a divided force, unable to mobilize its forces.
Right.
And you recall, as soon as the private sector convinced Eddie to leave and put in Bruce Golding, that the JLP won the 2007 elections.
Yeah.
So I am of the view that the electorate is back to its 2/3 syndrome, and therefore I see that there's going to be a change of government on Wednesday, the 3rd of December. I feel I am strongly of that view.
And Desmond, even so, if that were to turn out, this is only a 3-point lead. Now we know a lot will depend on what's happening in the individual constituencies, some of which were won by such a narrow margin. But this is not a clear situation of, they're not far apart by the Don Anderson polls.
Yes, but and when I talk with and see what is happening on the ground, I see some major shifts. So, for example, what I'm saying is that those constituencies which traditionally voted for PNP, they are going to return. I am not saying that I don't see a 49-15 victory margin. I don't see that. But the incumbent government is going to lose.
All right. Lloyd B, talk to us a little bit about that incumbency and the 2-term syndrome, and whether you think those poll findings are credible. And I want you to consider, as you were saying, Lloyd B, that the JLP had been gaining ground, and now for us to see in a matter of weeks since the last poll that the PNP has opened up a lead.
Let me dive first of all into the blue dot polls, which I frankly do not regard with much, alacrity. The fact of the matter is that if you historically look at politics in Jamaica, it's very rare that any party has such a wide margin. And I don't know how they do their thing. I'm not a psychologist, but it seems to me that their modus operandi is a bit off. So I don't even want to go there. I will rely more on the Don Anderson polls for our discussion as far as I'm concerned. The incumbency syndrome has always been part of the body politic of Jamaica from the days of universal adult suffrage, 1944 until now. There is this saying, room for rent, apply within, when I go, you go in. And it has always been like that. We had one instance where PJ Patterson was able to capitalize, as Desmond said, on the tremendous unpopularity and also the division in the JLP. This time round, both parties are poised in terms of their bases. If you look at the Don Anderson poll, and this has also been a traditional fact, the PNP has a larger base, always had. And what this means is that once the PNP is sufficiently united, and has all its base behind it, it becomes a formidable force. In 2020, what happened is that a lot of comrades stayed home and did not vote. Plus, we had the specter of the COVID situation. So for me, 2020 was an anomaly and cannot be factored in the general scheme of things when one analyzes electoral victories and defeats. I think that one was an anomaly. As it stands now, uh, it's going to be a ground war. And what I am more interested in at this stage is not the overall popular vote, because as I always say in my commentaries, we have two types of politics in Jamaica. We have the wholesale politics, which looks at the overall national trends. But there's also the retail politics, which looks now succinctly at the constituencies one by one. And in our system of first past the post, what the PMP has to be careful of is that even though you may have the popular vote, you may not necessarily win the number of seats. So it's going to take a lot of organization. It's going to take a lot of cash. And in this regard, the JLP is awash in cash. I think the PMP is doing quite reasonably well, but I have no doubt that the JLP has the edge there when it comes to financing its campaign. What the PMP has, however, is that its base is more energized than the JLP base because there is some amount of fallout in some of the constituencies because of the quality of representation of the incumbent JLP MPs. If you dig into the JLP environment, you will find that there's some amount of disaffection in a number of constituencies where the JLP has an incumbent, and this will play out in the results of the elections on September 3.
Right. Patrick, I want to bring you back in. Lloyd B, we'll come back to you. Patrick, I want to bring you back in.
All right.
I want you to make a response to that, Patrick, but I also want to ask you about the not sure and those who said they're not going to vote. And not sure number in the latest one is 16.2%. Go ahead, Patrick.
All right. So let me just look on a few things. Firstly, remember the PNP did just change a leader, and for some reason Jamaican always tie up its politics with its leaders, and that's why the PNP was able to keep Patterson in for so long because of the disunity with Siaga for that long period of time. So let's not forget there's still some level of disunity with Golin in the PNP right now. And there are several constituencies around the country, especially like even in Westmoreland with Colin Camp, with Camp. Right. There's a lot of disunity, pockets of disunity in the PNP as well. And so that may affect a couple of the seats that once people think is traditional PNP seats. Now, Lloyd B mentioned that the base of the PNP was much bigger than the JLP. I think some time ago, Carl Stone did say something like that. But, recently, something happened in Westmoreland. The Sheffield division, the gentleman who was PNP at the time, he won it by roughly 1,000 votes. And normally the PNP would have won that Sheffield division by 900 votes. However, the gentleman switched to JLP and he won it with 1,200 votes. And guess what? The gentleman who ran for the PNP still get the 900 votes, right? So what I think has happened in recent time, the JLP seem to be doing some of the things that the PNP has been doing at the grassroots level. By one of the main things is the enumeration of voters. They have a massive enumeration of voters going on now, and so they are really swelling their numbers, right? I know it in Westmoreland and I know it in several constituencies, and I heard that that's the strategy they are using because they are not going to depend on the people who normally would vote. So
it's more than a message. It's a grassroots organization.
Yes,
Patrick,
right. But
why do you want the JLP to win the next term? Tell us.
Well, you putting me on the spot with it because I wasn't giving any opinion as yet, but I can give my opinion. All right, so maybe three reasons, right? One, I think the JLP is on a move right now that it should not be disrupted because one, they according to the records they are creating a better environment for business. Inflation is down. The debt to GDP ratio is going down. Crime is going down, which was a big problem for the years. And overall, I don't think the PNP is quite ready as yet to take over because we just get a new leader, and you can see the shuffling around, the different spokesman, how they handle their portfolio. You can see that they're not quite ready for the leadership role of Jamaica yet either. So, on that score, I would give the JLP another term, right? Not saying that they are perfect, and there's a lot of weaknesses that has been put, that they have displayed. One of them is the perceived corruption, right? You can't ignore that, and even some arrogance in terms of how they handle certain projects. But overall, I would give them another try at the wicket, and I think it would be
No.
better for the Jamaican economy because you can see the last 10 years they have really turned around the economy, right? In most areas. I wouldn't want to stop the progress as like you would have said 10 years ago, right? So I would continue like.
All right, I know you went sideways to answer Desmond, but I just really wanted to respond to that. Of the
Undecided.
uncommitted, not sure they're going to vote.
Okay.
The voting levels.
Right. So most people still have the view, and rightly so, that both parties are not doing what they are supposed to do. Right? And if you want, I can use my area of agriculture. I'm not pleased how both parties handle the agricultural sector. Right? It's not moving in the right direction, despite some level of growth, and despite incentives that government they put in, and despite fixing up, we are now experiencing the highest level of imports. We're at 1.6 billion, right? Just in agriculture. And if you look at the overall trade balance, we are just keep importing more and more. And what the PNP just proposed about the 3 million tax, all that's gonna do is to fuel more imports because people gonna have more money to spend, and they're just gonna try to buy imported goods, right? I mean, it happened even since the JLP moved the tax threshold to what, nearly 2 million now. You can see the level of expenditure going on, but it's good still because the government collect more GCT, right? So overall, the managing of the economy, they put it on a growth path. Both parties really don't get it right up to now.
All right. Desmond, I wanted to respond to Patrick. What Patrick was sounding was, and I want also you to make a response to the comment about the not sure. 16%, even at this point, are not sure whether they're going to vote. 28% say they will not vote.
Well, it is that to me is a clear indication of the Jamaican populace dissatisfaction with the political parties. That is a clear, it is a protest sign from the voters. Now, one of the things that the economic analysts, when they analyze this thing about growth, now, what they don't point out, and Franklin and Lloyd B, you are both in rural areas. They don't point out the impact of government policies on the life of ordinary Jamaican. Now, these are the issues, the things that affect the daily lives of the people. Are they improving? Are the people able to get water? What about their roads? What about medical supplies? What about their livelihood to meet the cost of living? And when I talk to the people in the rural parishes, what I see is that the progress that we are talking about, the prosperity and the growth here, it has not filtered down into the lives of the ordinary people. And this is one of the main reasons why the voters are staying away from the polls. Main reason. And as far as Patrick answer as to why the JLP should be given a third chance, is remember the JLP is not a new party. As I said repeatedly, the ills and misfortunes of Jamaica, the socio-economic and political ills and misfortunes of Jamaica must be laid at the feet of both the PNP and the JLP. Now, for the past 9 years, the JLP has been in power. And the question is, and this is the question that we are going to see how the people respond to it on Wednesday, is that if these policies that Maitland is talking about, Maitland et al., if they have affected the lives of the ordinary person, whether PNP or JLP, in a positive way, we will see the results on Wednesday.
The results being positive for the JLP that way. All right, Winnie, you want to take a couple of comments, and then we're going back to Lloyd B. Lloyd B, once you are in the Western Jamaica, yeah, you know the sayings about Western Jamaica, where that goes, the country might go. I'd love you to make mention of that, whether it's a truism or not, and how does the West look. But Winnie, you wanted to take a couple of comments and put them up?
Yes, I want to make my own comment from a female perspective. And also, I'll read this comment first. First of all, we have Rubian Forbes saying good afternoon to everyone. And forgive me if I miscall your name, Omoro Griffiths. Thank you, sir. You're more understanding the Jamaican people. So I am.
He was referring to Des. He came in when Desmond was speaking, I think.
Right. So I am going to speak for myself as one of those not sure yet what I'm going to do on Wednesday. It's not just for some of us. I must say that the only party I've been a part of was the National Democratic Movement. And from time to time, I go back to those days and the goals that we hoped to achieve then. So the third parties are there, although they don't get serious consideration. There's some of us who are still not sure. And it's not because we don't love Jamaica. It's because of the things that we see and hear. When we talk about the JLP base, the PNP base rather, that's more historical. I don't know what is recent, because the JLP has so many young people. Most of the young people that I meet all over the island, they are saying third term loading. That is what I see. The only thing is that the younger voters, it has been said over the years, are less reliable. But there's so many things in politics for them now that I would not be surprised if they turn out in large numbers.
All right. Thank you, Winnie. Thank you. So, Lloyd B,
Yeah, well,
if you will.
just to quickly point out to my good lady there that the latest London poll did indicate, when you look at the statistics available, that the PMP's base is larger than the JLP base, and the JLP base has dwindled somewhat because of its reliance on the younger voters, some of whom have now backtracked and gone back to being uncommitted or not made up their minds. And this has always been the psychology of young voters who tend to flip flop and are the most difficult to get to the polls. Because, for one, many of them believe in immediate gratification, as against the older voters who are looking not just at a belly full, but at governance issues such as integrity and accountability and transparency. But I'll leave that as it is. Your major question, Franklin, had to do with the West. Yes,
Yeah.
the West is going to decide this election, undoubtedly so. Undoubtedly so. Because, for starters, when you look at what now entails, the JLP in 2020 literally swept all of the West. In St. James, for example, they took all the seats. In Hanover, in Westmoreland, right? In Trelawney. So for the PMP to make a sufficient comeback and to be first past the post, it will have to take back a substantial number of seats in Western Jamaica.
Lloyd B, just as a reminder on that, you are saying that in 2020, if you remember the details, the JLP won St. James. How many seats that?
I think it was 5.
In Hanover, won all of those.
Hanover is 2.
Right. And in Westmoreland,
I think Westmoreland could be what? 4. I'm not.
3. Westmoreland is 3.
3 Lloyd B.
East, Central, and yeah, 3. That's right.
3. And in Trelawney, 2.
Trelawney is 2.
Yes, the JLP blew away the entire West.
Yes.
No matter what happens, otherwise,
12 seats in the West.
Yes, continue, Lloyd B. I interrupted you. And let me just take some comments before you pick up again, Lloyd B. Winnie, go ahead.
Yes.
Coming back to
So
you,
that
Lloyd B.
Shelo, she says, good afternoon. Love the conversation. I definitely cannot vote for a man who leads a party who can't tell me how he has earned his wealth. Yes, and she continues to say, I remember clearly the PM said that he doesn't need his almost 9 million and he can give it back. So why he hasn't been clear on how he has made his money? Yes, and Amoro Griffiths, I don't think buying votes should be a part of election. This does not help the country for persons who with sense like me. And another comment from Shayla. Yes. A next factor we should look out for on Wednesday is the weather forecast. I see there is a 70% chance of rain island-wide. Will that affect the vote?
Okay, so we'll come back to that. So, Lloyd B, we interrupted you. You were making the point. And for those just joining us, Lloyd B is the editor-in-chief at the Western Mirror, is a commentator and a former MP. Yes, Lloyd B. So you were saying that the JLP won all of those seats the last time around.
Yes. Well, from all indications, from what we are now seeing, this is not going to happen again. A number of factors. Once there's for starters, there is the incumbency aspect of it. But outside of that, also, there has been an overall poor level of representation coming from the JLP incumbents. We saw, for example, what happened in Western Westmoreland, where the sitting MP was unceremoniously booted out. And there have been rumblings coming from other constituencies. In Central, for example, it has been a bit surprising that the JLP decided to have George Wright run again. And I think
I gather that George Wright is turning out to be a fantastic candidate, and he might win the seat.
He does enjoy a certain amount of popularity. I think, on the other hand, what may go in his favor is the fact that Vaz, has somewhat waned in terms of his level of effectiveness as a constituency representative. And this may well cause him to lose the seat. But I suspect that with the swing, because remember now that in the very final analysis, most people who vote in this election are not necessarily just voting for the candidate. They are voting for the party leader and the party. Our elections are usually like a presidential election. So on that basis, if the PMP has this swing, which it now has, and it continues to have that swing, then that swing could enable even an unpopular or not so popular candidate to be first past the post. And this has happened before and can happen again.
In St. James, what is the seat that you would say people should look out for? That might be...
It's going to be difficult for the PMP to beat Bartlett and Chang. So those two I'm giving to the JLP for starter, and that's East Central and Northwestern.
And Northwest, St. James and East Central, yes.
And East Central. Those definitely going to stay with the JLP. I mean, if either Bartlett or Chang should lose, then that would be cataclysmic. The remaining seats are up for grabs. Central, where I ran and won in 2011, Hero Clark has embedded himself in that constituency. The PMP has flip-flopped over the years in not settling down with a candidate of some substance. This time round, it has Janice Allen, who is well known in the Bay, and in fact, her campaign slogan is Bay Girl. I think she's going to give Hero a run for his money, but I am still giving Hero the edge because that constituency was cut in favor of the JLP from day one. And it has remained, in terms of its topography and everything else, it tends to favor the JLP. So for any PMP to win it, you have to really come good. And I'm not trying to say that I was that good, but the fact is that I think my being the governor helped. Anyway, let me continue. Desmond, don't say anything about that. So
Janice Allen was the spokesperson for the
tourism.
On tourism.
Tourism, yeah. Right.
Okay.
The seat that is two seats that are likely to go to the PMP are South and West Central. West Central, which is now represented by Marley Malawi Fort, is definitely up for grabs because Mrs. Fort has not been an effective member of parliament. I think she put a nail in her coffin when she recently said at the Sam Sharp mass meeting that promising her constituents that if she's reelected, they will see her more often. Now, what does that tell you?
Really?
That's not that sentence. Right? She's up against a young academician, Dr. Andre Horton, who lost to her before, but to his credit, he has stayed.
He lost before, though, Lloyd B.
That's what I'm saying, that he lost before. But to his credit, he stayed in the constituency. He never went away. You know, a lot of people, when they lose, you don't see them again until when election comes around again. But he has remained in the constituency, very visible. And this time around, I think he has a good chance of upsetting the apple cart. But I don't know what his resources are like because Malawi Fort has a vast war chest behind her. And this would keep her in office. Over in South, which for some time had been a PMP stronghold from the days of...
I was going to ask you if that is a PMP seat or was that considered a PMP seat? South St. James.
It's what I would call a weather vane.
For so long.
West Central is a weather vane seat. The only person who may have had it for a while was Francis Tolo. It has flip-flopped from Labour to PMP for quite a while.
Okay.
Right? I think Francis Tolo may have been the only one who had it for 2 terms also. But we have had a number of persons who have run in that seat and won, both on the JLP side and on the PMP side. So it's a seat that can go either way. And it tends to go the way of the national swing. So this is why I suspect that the PMP has a better chance this time around with the young Professor.
Lloyd B.
And if I may just complete the picture, Desmond. In South, we have Nikisha Burchell, and a lot is said about her figure and all that. No, but no,
Don't
it
do
has
that.
become an issue in the campaign.
Don't do that.
It's like been targeting her figure,
It's
you
a
know.
different swing.
Well,
And to be honest, Desmond, she does have a figure, you know. It's quite voluptuous. But anyway,
See what they do to women.
well, well,
she's going up against the incumbent, Oba Davis,
Over
and
there.
he's running for his life. She's giving him a run for his
Former
money.
mayor, former many
Former
things.
mayor, and a likable person. He's my good friend, I must say. But this time round, I think he's going to get a good fight. I wouldn't want to call it at this stage, but if I was forced to do so, I would give Miss Burchell the edge again because of the national swing, which always plays a role where you have tight races.
All right, thanks, Lloyd B. Desmond, you
Lloyd
want
B.
to comment?
Which seat
Yes,
the former?
Desmond.
No, I'm
Huh?
asking Lloyd B. Remind me, Lloyd B. Which seat the former mayor? Which seat the former Labour minister used to represent again?
Which
South,
former
South,
who?
Derek Kelly.
Former.
Talking Derek Kelly.
Kenya, South, the one that Nikisha Burchell and Homer Davis are now vying for.
Okay. Because I believe like that seat is likely to go to the PNP.
Yes,
Like
it
like
has
you
that
like
potential. Because if
yeah.
you look at the
Like
local
you
government, if you look at the local government results, the PMP
yes,
won most of the seats there.
yes. Well as the saying goes that if you want to take if whoever take the West will take the election. You know the JLP has 12 seats in the West. So if the PNP is to win the election, they will have to take a substantial number of those 12.
They need
Right?
at least seven. They need at least seven.
Yes.
They need at
And
least seven.
and I am in agreement with you. I don't see them taking Dr. Chang and Ed Bartlett, even when Ed Bartlett is an absentee member of parliament, but
It's
he
a fantastic organization, man.
yes.
Yes. Well organized.
He has a strong
Patrick, I want to bring you in
organization.
here, Patrick. Patrick, I
Yeah.
want to bring you in here about the war
Yeah.
chest. Lloyd B mentioned the war chest a while ago of one member from St. James. And one of our respondents had asked about, pointed out that money must be used to entice people and so on. And the argument that keeps coming up, Patrick, about how much money you really need. How big is the money issue for you?
well, you know, a friend of mine, political friend of mine, said to me some time ago that it's a transactional arrangement. Politics is now become transactional. And as Lloyd B, we're kind of discussing the young people. It's more transactional for the young voters. And it's a common thing. I hear it all over the place. They're not voting unless they get some money, right? They're not voting unless certain things
They
happen.
get cement. Some
Cement and
people
all of
get
that.
that cement, bag of grocery, namely for the
Right.
shop.
Right. They have to get something. It's a transaction. And it's boiled down. I hear some people say it's who really offer the most money in this election gonna win. Because especially the
But
young
it's
people.
all over the place, man. It's all over.
Yes.
It's widespread what the people are getting and being given.
Right. And especially the young people, they are not playing with it. They have to be
Well,
convinced.
well, what I see is this. It's only every 5 years people have the opportunity to get something. That is how some of them reason. Look, they want our votes. All we get is what they give us now. It's all about them. When they get there, they don't remember us. So let us get out as much as we can out of both sides. I don't know how many of you saw the video with these two people, one in green, the other in orange, and sending one out and say, you go to the JLP meeting and collect what
Yep.
you can collect, and then you come and we'll exchange shirts. And then I'll go to the other meeting so that we will get from both sides.
But because even during the nomination, I heard that the shirt were wrapped up. Money was wrapped up in the shirt.
Yes.
That was a part of that video.
Lloyd B, I love your response, your comment here. But somebody was responding to me on WhatsApp, from out west, as a matter of fact. I can't even hear him, but he's saying that money is needed mainly for organization on the day. Money is needed on the day. Now, I know that there are runners, people organize a taxi, people organize lunch, people organize. But how serious is this money issue, Lloyd B?
Well, it is the fuel for the organizational thrust that the parties have to have, especially on election day, because they have to transport a lot of the persons. They would have done their canvassing and their enumeration, so they know exactly who to pull out. And you would have observed every time we have an election, one of the spectacles that we observe are invalids being lifted up and put in a taxi and taken to the polling station, because every vote counts. So, and all of this takes money, and you have to put gas in the vehicles, and you have to feed them and everything else. So it is an expensive proposition. The buying of votes, it takes all kinds of forms. When I ran, for example, I ran twice. I don't know if some of you may have realized, but I did run once in South for the JLP, and I lost, of course. Keller was too strong. Well, Keller was too strong for me. It was the 4 or 5 star general. But anyway, and I went in 2 weeks before the election. But anyway, the fact is, when I went into a certain area, this little old man came out of his house area, and he said to me, Mr. Smith, "It's 15 of us live in this yard. All of them are my relatives. Right? One of my son and my daughter and my grandparents. But I can guarantee you the 15 votes. See, them me have a room over there, so me want deck and finish off. So me need some cement and building block. If you can supply those, you get 15 votes right away."
Right. And you did supply.
Hold on, Lloyd.
Yeah.
You have to give us a full story now. Did you supply?
Did you supply?
No, wait, no, man. Then why you think me lose? When me no fool like one of some, like a paragon of virtue. I said to the owner, look, if I become MP, I'm going to be looking about water and road and pool and just St. Peter water.
Of course.
Right.
I'm getting some laughter emojis on my side on my WhatsApp. I don't have to communicate directly here. I ask them to come on to YouTube, but they don't tend to. But the money is a serious issue. Desmond.
It is, and it plays a very critical role, and the whole business of letting off, and as Patrick pointed out, it is a transactional type of affair. But I do believe, though, that a very good candidate with sufficient organization behind him or her can tip the scales, because a lot of times some of these people who you give money to or whatever, they don't even turn up to vote, right? Because sometimes they get drunk an election day, then they have to borrow a drink off the money, right?
But don't you know the saying? Nab them out and vote them out.
Right.
You don't know that one?
Yes.
Desmond, how serious is the money business, Desmond?
Well, the last election, what I recall, at that time I was running a nightclub, and I remember the day after election, a driver who I know, he came to me with his trunk filled with white rum, cases of white rum, saying that these are leftovers from what was given to the voters up in Nannyville. And I remember I bought 2 cases from him.
It's a serious joke, you know.
Tainted rum, that Desmond. Tainted rum,
Huh?
man. Tainted rum.
Right? So I know that the transactional aspect. When I saw this up front in West Portland when Darrell Vaz contested, I was in that constituency for some weeks, and I saw the transactional aspect of the election up front. Not here. So I saw it happening.
Yeah.
Right. So, but what are the things that we must remember? That the transactional aspect of the politics, it has grown stronger because of the lack of representation by the members of parliament. The members of parliament, once they are elected, they forget their constituency, their constituents and constituency. You know, one of the things that and I don't know if Lloyd B would agree, you know, the members of parliament don't represent the people, they represent their parties.
Yeah.
And therefore, after the election, the people don't see them, they do very little until election time again. So that is why the people have taken it unto themselves to say, okay, you want the vote, pay for it.
Yeah, and in all of this is where I have had serious issues with Andrew Holness, because when he went in the direction of talking about providing job description for members of parliament and ministers, I thought that excellent idea, but that has not come to fruition. And what we have seen is that some of these MPs are just warming benches. It's the first time in the history of Jamaican politics that there are some members of parliament who I don't know. I can't even remember the names.
The numbers are big. The numbers are huge on the government side. And
Yes,
they
I
do have
don't even know their name. They have never spoken. There's nothing that they've contributed, and it is sad because, you know, and we're talking about constitutional reform. We can't go into being a Republican of the same system of governance. It's not going to work. There must be a greater level of accountability coming from our elected officials. And this business of just getting elected on the coattails of the leader, which is what happened in 2020 and is likely to happen again in 2025. It's taking us nowhere, and it continues to weaken our democracy.
Okay, we're going to move on. We're coming near to the end of the show. I'm going to come back to ask Winnie to give us a few words on the debate if she can get there. But before we get there, Lloyd B, one of the things that I see somebody saying is that Malahoo Ford has a strong backing, and she has one of the dares on her side in that part of the world, and that will help her prevail. So after Winnie,
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that Malahoo Fort has one of the dares, on her side, and that will count for something.
That's money. That translates into money. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Resources. Yes.
Okay. Beautiful. So Winnie, you want to give us a word on the debates before we ask everybody to give us their predictions?
I think it's best for me to pass on the debates because I was not available for the first one. Didn't get to watch any of them, only what others have had to say about them.
Patrick, the debates move the needle at all, you think, Patrick? By the way, it wouldn't be caught in Don Anderson's poll took place during one, but with the first debate they could have responded, but they wouldn't have seen the latter two. You think the debate meant anything, Patrick? We're not hearing Patrick all of a sudden. He's muted.
Sorry. It was more focused on the character of the leaders, which is important. I didn't hear much about how they're going to grow the economy. right? It's like I'm
You're
not
talking the leadership debate now, Patrick.
the leadership debate. I'm not
Okay,
gonna
yeah,
play.
fine.
I'm not a
Fine.
fact. Most of the debates, they fail to really push the issues that gonna grow the economy, right? They were more focused on the more social character assassination type of thing, which is important, right? So we didn't hear much about how you're gonna grow the economy, how you're gonna grow agriculture, how you're gonna grow tourism, right? How you're gonna help small business.
Yeah.
It was really lacking from it.
And in that, yes, I agree with Patrick there. Sorry to cut in, but Franklin, you are being a seasoned journalist. My problem is the questions, because I
Yes.
think the questions did not allow for some of these very issues that Patrick is talking about to come to the fore. The questions were so narrow and focused on, the whole matter of corruption and that sort of thing. And we didn't hear much about agriculture. We didn't hear much about how we're going to grow the economy. We didn't hear much about what is your overall vision for the next 5 years in terms of Jamaica becoming a republic. A lot of very important questions were not asked.
Right.
Interesting. Desmond, you believe it change moves the needle at all?
No, I don't. No, I don't believe it. It influenced the voters. I don't think so, because you see the debates, how the debates are structured. For example, the parties have the right to choose who must ask them questions, right?
Yeah. That's from the start, from the setup you're talking about. From the setup, yeah.
Yes. So the debates
Now,
are just
based on the earlier
the debates are like,
point.
No,
Okay,
Desmond,
I
it's
just
your time.
piece of the audio and the debate is playing in the background. But we got the point, Desmond. We're running now close to things. Commenters coming from Owen Richards was saying it's a shame that the Jamaican people remain so licky. We licky. Lloyd B, you say we licky or just that's the basic.
We're not only licky, we nyami as well.
Oh,
But as the goodly lady on our panel said, the fact is that for 5 years, so many of these people are literally starving. And so the only opportunity to get a belly full, so to speak, is during the election campaign. And they set about to milk it. Because it's the boy for the next 5 years, I'll get nothing again. You see? And that's all part and parcel of the transactional arrangement that entails in our politics.
all right, so quick predictions now going around the table. If your time come, I can make a prediction. We start over at Patrick. We start over at Winnie. Winnie, we start with you. Predictions on the vote count, on the seat count.
All I can say is this. I don't believe that any side will run away with it. I believe that it will be a close election.
All right, close. Patrick.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's gonna be very close. Maybe, but I think the JLP may edge out with 36, 37. I think it's gonna be something like that.
I'm just reminding everybody that they only need any side to win just need 32.
32.
Yes.
33. I think it's 33.
How man?
32. That's why we have 63 seats.
Right.
Well, taking it for granted that none of the independents will show.
They won't win any of the seats.
Jeffrey Warner saying sad state of affairs. PNP will win. But Desmond, your time.
35, about 35 seats for the PNP.
Not seeing a big prediction. Lloyd B?
I can't give you a specific figure, but I do believe that the PNP does have the edge. And if its momentum continues up until Wednesday, based on its organization and the energizing of its base, it should be able to be first past the post. But from all indications, as others have said, it will be a close election. But again, Jamaican politics is very fluid sometimes. And a 5% lead can also lead to a landslide. Go back and look at the history of this country.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anything.
My take on it is that it's going to be somewhere in the region of 34, between 34 and 36 for the winner.
Yeah.
And that means that that is what I see. And at the moment, it looks to me like the PNP has the advantage. And it's like
Maybe first past the post now. One vote can take you over the edge. Which is why I don't believe in this system. I prefer proportional representation. You need to have a program power. You need to have a program power to discuss that, Franklin.
That's for another day, Lloyd B. That's our show for today. Thanks to Lloyd B Smith, Patrick Maitland, both publishers and long-time journalists and good colleagues. Thanks to our panelists, Desmond, Richards, and Winnie Anderson Brown, and to graphic artist and technical producer, Joshua Black. Let me encourage you all to go out and vote. Don't allow the politicians to think that you don't matter or to take you for granted. Go out and vote. And remember, you are entitled to 3 hours to cast your vote on the day. On behalf of all of us, I'm Frankly McKnight. I'm wishing you a great week.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.